This is for everybody who said you weren't going to be nothing. Everybody who said you were just a trash man. This is for that.
All right, I'm clicking it.
Congratulations! Oh. Let's go!
ABC, I think Good Morning America tomorrow, CNN, I was like Access Hollywood, Complex on Instagram, CNN, Daily Mail, bro. I don't know, man. It's been a lot. I can't really keep track right now. I can't thank you enough for doing what you're doing. One thing that I really liked about you in general, even because mind you, I've been here for a while. It's just like, you always like gave out a lot of free content. Literally, I just can't thank you enough for being a part of the community to the extent that you are. You really do make a difference, man. I love reading your blogs too, your emails.
Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me to have been a part of your journey, and I'm excited to see what comes next for you. I want you to get at least 100 questions wrong.
Okay. Oh. Okay.
It's a terrifying idea.
Did you feel that energy? It's like, I'm smelling and you get 100 questions wrong. Oh. Okay, let's go for it. You know what you're doing. That's why I'm here, obviously. Because you're an expert, so. Okay.
What if you took the idea that every question you got wrong was an opportunity to learn something new?
I'd feel a lot better. I'd feel liberated, actually. I know that sounds extreme, but I'd feel absolutely liberated. So, yeah, it's feasible. Yeah, it's feasible to grow from this. So, yeah, I'm going to take that mindset. I'm going to switch it and say, that's my thought process now.
I did hire a tutor, and honestly, he made me feel like a complete idiot. There was this one moment where I asked how to do something, and he just let out this sigh. Like, duh, how could I be so dumb as to not get this? It's so easy. You just do X, Y, Z. And he would walk through his perfect way to solve it. And what I really needed was a coach. I needed someone who was able to help me see my own blind spots, help me think of the questions that I didn't even know I should be asking. Because obviously, you know that you're getting them wrong. But what you don't know is what you don't know. You don't always even know the question to be asking. What I'm looking to do in this mastermind group, in this group coaching experience, is I'm looking to help you figure out what's missing for your prep to help you make your self-study more effective. I will vow to hide nothing and hold nothing back about my experience. And I hope that you'll all agree to do the same. If you feel that you're called to do this and this is your purpose and this is your destiny, if you're doing anything else and days go by without studying, it's like God is whispering to you, you know what you got to do, and you're ignoring his call. In the Bible, you have the prophets, and God calls on them to do a certain task. And those prophets are ignoring for a while, and God gives them hints, and those hints become increasingly severe, right? Because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so imagine if years go by and you haven't achieved your goals, you're going to know that. And that's going to be on you. I think that, for someone who's religious, if you truly believe in God, that's kind of a terrifying thought, because that means that you're actually accountable to be doing these things that you should be doing. Religiosity has a certain value and a certain power to it because it can act as a motivation in these ways. And so there are all sorts of motivational techniques. There are apps to help you focus. There are things that will shut down social media for you. And you can do all of those tools and tactical things. But I think this mindset is even more powerful. Don't let your previous scores define you. A lot of times people take the LSAT without doing much studying or not nearly enough studying. People often underestimate just how difficult this exam is. I believe it takes typically at least 5 to 6 months of dedicated studying to reach your fullest potential. And so those early scores, especially if you weren't studying the right way or weren't studying enough, they don't reflect your potential. They're simply more like diagnostics or starting points than anything else. And so if you're changing your approach radically next time around, there's no limit to what you can do. And I believe that if you aim for the 170s or a 180 and you study like that's what you want to get, then you're much more likely to increase your score overall. So even if you landed in the 160s, going for the 170s or 180 would push you beyond where you would otherwise. And honestly, I never see any reason not to shoot for a 180.
One other important piece of information about me, I will be kind of a splitter applicant because my undergrad GPA isn't very high. It was 3.54. on my report, that's my overall GPA. My major GPA is a little higher. I think it's around 3.7. So I think, because law school really value high GPA applicants. So I'm just wondering where I stand in terms of my application and what kind of competitive advantage I will have over other candidates.
Well, it is primarily numbers driven. So you have a good GPA. The next thing is to get a top LSAT score to boost your application. It's primarily numbers. Your work experience will be an asset, but it's not going to make the difference. Most likely, it's really, in most cases, more about the numbers. So I'd say the thing you can do is just get the top LSAT score possible. Ever since I was 10 years old, I wanted to be a lawyer. I argued about XYZ with my parents. I always liked to read the fine print and would pester my parents with questions about what all these legal terms meant. It continued in school when I argued XY policies for a higher grade from the teacher using their own grading rubric. How clever was I? I did debate and was even on a panel with XYZ famous person. They said I was the most impressive young person they'd ever encountered. My college had an unfair policy about dining hall meal plans that I got changed. Now in my job, I advocate for XYZ by helping clients navigate policies, loopholes, all that bureaucracy. Most recently, when my parents had a hard time getting out of a cruise booking during COVID, I found the fine print that got them to give us a full refund of the deposit and everything. There are a lot of problems with XYZ policies on the national level, and I want to change that. I will bring perseverance, diligence, and hard work to whatever I do. Based on my previous professional and personal experiences, I am confident that X School of Law is the best place to achieve my goals. Thank you. Looking at the questions themselves, I really wanted to kind of dissect them and take them apart piece by piece. There was the first level where I was building a foundation and just a general familiarity. But after that, it really became much more about cutting it up and analyzing it into its constituent parts to understand how it was constructed and, let's say for logical reasoning, what the common methods of reasoning were like. So it definitely involves putting in a tremendous amount of time, but it wasn't just reading books and taking exams. The analysis and the review process were really where the gains came from. The content has not changed, so games, reasoning, reading comp, all of that remains the same, but simulating test day is a big part of where things change. So you're doing, as you said, 3 sections, not 5. Big difference. This is not a marathon. This is more of a sprint, which means that you've got to be ready to go the second the exam starts. So do some warm-up questions before you're actually opening up the Proctor use software. And I would always recommend in the past doing a warm-up, but now it's especially important because every question counts more. The other thing I'll say is that logical reasoning, which used to be about half the exam, is now only about 1/3 of the exam. And so you're studying up to exam day, you'd probably want to spend less time on LR than in the past and relatively more time on logic games and reading comprehension, since that's how the exam itself is going to weigh those things. But most other things actually don't change a whole lot. Like the content, the ordering games, grouping games, all of that's still there. And obviously correlation causation is a form of flaw or at least a gap. And so there are lots of ways to problematize that. You could say that there's an alternate possibility or explanation for the correlation and that it's not a causal relationship. You could say there's a third variable causing both. You could say that it's a coincidence and just randomly those things happen to go together. Or you could say the causality is reversed and that the proposed cause is actually in effect. So those are different ways you can problematize the correlation causation argument. To strengthen it, we could dismiss any of these things, or we could simply further tighten the relationship between the proposed cause and effect of these two correlated variables. I actually still feel awkward sometimes on camera, and it's just like one of those things I've just gotten more comfortable by doing it more, and then also not watching myself with a critical eye, because there's always going to be tiny little things you wish could have been different, but if you hold yourself to such a high standard, then you can't publish anything. We don't have to all be famous Hollywood actors.